What's up everybody, Andrew here with the Medellin Buzz. In this video, I'm gonna go over the 10 things that nobody tells you about living in Colombia. I've been here for 14 years, so I've seen it all, done it all. Let's get to it. All right, so one of the things that people don't tell you about Colombia is that some words just don't really have meaning. For example, the word yes. When you ask someone out on a date, whether it's a guy or a girl, or you're just planning events with friends that are locals here and they say yes, that word may mean maybe or sometimes no. And if you get a maybe, it usually just means no. This is because we as Colombians have a hard time saying no to things. For example, if you ask someone to go to an event with you in the future, they'll probably say yes because they don't want to let you down, number one. And number two, they may not have the money to do it right now. So they're thinking in their head, maybe in the future I will, so I'll just say yes now. And maybe in the future I'll have the money to do this event, but I'm not going to say no. It's something that is complex and it's cultural, and not everybody participates in this. This is not generalizing everybody, but for the most part, you'll find this happening even in small doses. And it can be annoying if you don't understand this. But as you understand, not only that this happens, but the language. This is why it's so important to learn some Spanish before you come living here, or as you're living here, making sure that you're going to classes and you're understanding Spanish, because once you understand the language, you'll understand these colloquialisms, these expressions that if you translate them directly to English, for example, the words en un ratico, or más adelante, or en un rato. Translating it directly means in a bit or later. When someone tells you that, it usually means many days in advance. It could mean hours in advance. It could mean many days in advance. It could mean never in some cases. So understanding the culture is very important. And in order to understand the culture, you should speak Spanish. You'll learn these phrases and you'll learn to evaluate a situation where someone is saving face and just doesn't want to tell you no. And it saves you time, money, and patience at the same time. How hard it is to rent an apartment. And it's even hard for locals. If you're going through the traditional way of renting an apartment through a local rental agency, you're gonna have to provide a ton of stuff, and most people won't be able to provide these things, even locals. For example, I compiled a list of requirements from various agencies, and this is what they require. I'm going to read it here. So if you're an employee, you're going to have to provide employment certification detailing salary, position, and tenure. You're going to have to provide payroll payment stubs, usually the last 2 or 3 months. Copy of your ID, and it should be a local ID, proof of income, at least double the rent amount, and not being reported to credit bureaus, which means that they're gonna run a background check or a credit background check on you to make sure that you are not a liability. So imagine if you're a local and you do have that local ID, you have to meet all these other criteria if you are an employee. But if you're not a local and you don't have an ID, you're already out. Now, here are the requirements if you're an independent contractor. A tax ID number, which is called the RUT number here, which anybody can get, even a foreigner can get an RUT number. You're gonna have to provide tax returns if you filed taxes here before, or maybe from your country. You're gonna have to provide bank statements, usually the last 3 months. You're gonna have to have a certificate of income and withholdings, your Chamber of Commerce registration, if applicable here in Colombia, and a copy of your local ID. So again, this already excludes foreigners that don't have a local ID. Obviously, if you go through the visa process and you do get a local ID, then you can get all this other stuff together. But wait, there's more. Even if you meet all of these requirements, most rental agencies will require that you have a guarantor or a cosigner that meets certain criteria. One of them being that they own property here in Colombia. Number two is that they make a certain amount of money over how much your rent is. And number three, that they pass this credit background check as well. So there are a lot of hoops to jump through, even if you are a local, let alone being a foreigner without a local ID or ways to verify your income out here. And this is why the furnished rental market has just exploded in Medellin, especially in the touristy areas like El Poblado and parts of Laureles, because it's really hard for foreigners that want to stay here for a month, 2 months, or 3 months, or even a year to get some sort of contract lease on an apartment. So what's the workaround? There are some ways to get better priced apartments, whether they're furnished or unfurnished. I made a whole video on it. I'll put it right here. It's also in the description, so you can watch it after this. The expat community is pretty tight-knit, and there are many groups online where you can get information about either traveling or, better yet, moving to Colombia. All you got to do is go to Facebook and type in expats in and then the city within Colombia. I live in Medellin, and there are many groups for Medellin expats, Medellin travelers, or just people that want to connect with either locals and foreigners at the same time. There are also groups for a ton of different activities, etc. So finding a community here is doable. The problem is that when you ask a question in those groups, you get 20 different answers, you get 50 different people talking about different topics, political topics, trolls trolling you because of your decisions, because of your profile picture. It gets pretty toxic and chaotic, and sometimes you come out with more questions than you actually got answers. I've been here for 14 years. I've created some of these groups that I'm talking about, and I'm a moderator in a couple of them. The best one that you can join is probably Gringo Paisa, which is on Facebook, so go check that one out. You get free information. People tend to troll less on there, although there's always trolling. I don't know why. I think Medellin just attracts these type of people, but it's okay. You'll get some answers. But if you really want to get answers on moving to Medellin, check out my business called the MedellinMasterclass.com. Up to now, we are in April of 2024. We've helped 27 people relocate to Medellin, whether it's part-time or full-time. Go check out the MedellinMasterclass.com. You'll get everything you need to know to make your move easy and fun. The link is in the description below. You'll book a call with me or someone on my team. We'll get to you and we'll see if we're a good fit. The next thing that people don't really tell you about Medellin in particular is that people are business minded here. That comes with some good and bad. The good is that a lot of the big companies in the country are from this region. For example, the supermarket's Éxito, that was born here. The utility company here called Empresas Públicas de Medellin, which is EPM, which sources 30% of all of the energy in all of the country, is from here. Grupo Argos, which is a conglomerate construction company and cement company that makes a lot of the buildings that you see in the country, is from here. Grupo Sura, which is a huge insurance company that handles all types of insurance across the whole country, is from here. Also Postobón, which is the biggest soda company, meaning like pop. If you want to drink a soda, it's probably made by Postobón, and that is from here as well. And of course, if you've been to Colombia, you know what Bancolombia is, which is the biggest bank in the country. That is from Medellin. So all that being said, they are very entrepreneurial. They are business minded, but it also comes with a caveat, meaning that culturally people are always looking to take advantage of a situation, especially if it involves money, where white lies are accepted. And if you're a local, you probably know this already. So you always have your guard up in any negotiation or any time you're talking about money. So if you're a foreigner coming here to live here and you don't understand that, you may feel like everyone's trying to take advantage of you. And the truth is that yes, everyone is trying to take advantage of you. And if you know this, you can pretty much stop it or fight back. And what I mean by fighting back is this. Whenever I go to buy something, I'll give you a recent example. I'm expecting a baby, so I wanted to buy a crib, but I just wanted it to be custom made. So I went to this place that I saw their advertisement on Instagram and I saw their work and I said, wow, this is amazing. So I went to their shop downtown. She gave me a price. And since I think in pesos and not dollars, remember I've said that in many of my videos, don't think in dollars, think in pesos. I immediately, when she said the price, I asked her for a discount. I'm like, well, what's the least that you can do? That's always my go-to phrase is cuánto es lo menos. And you'll find that a lot of paisas will also use that phrase when dealing anything with money, is cuánto es lo menos. Or they'll ask for a discount. For example, I'm not just buying a crib from them, I'm also buying all of the stuff that goes with the crib, and on top of that, I'm buying a rocking chair to help, rock the baby to sleep for the room. So I said, well, if I buy these two things, what's my discount? I'm expecting a discount. So this is what I'm talking about when I say people here are pretty business minded and or just savvy when it comes to negotiations. Everyone's always looking to take an advantage. And usually the shop owner already knows this and is baking in the fact that you are going to ask for a discount. So if I'm selling something for 1,000,000 pesos, it's because it really can go for 900 or even 850 at the least. So I know that. But if you don't ask for it, I'm going to sell it to you for 1,000,000 pesos. So just know that Colombians as a whole are pretty business minded, but here in Medellin, they are extra heavy on that savviness. So just be on the lookout. Traffic is pretty bad in Medellin and pretty much all major cities in Colombia. A lot of people don't talk about this because a lot of foreigners that come down here, they're working online, they're working remote, and they don't have to commute. But if you do have to commute, you will notice how bad it is, especially during peak hours. According to the Secretary of Transportation, peak hour traffic can add 30 minutes to your commute, and that's if there's no accidents. And even though they've implemented something that's called Pico y Placa, which is a program that only allows you to drive certain days depending on what number your license plate ends on top of that, they've expanded the metro, they've expanded bike lanes, etc. But none of that has actually helped. And in the 14 years that I've been here, traffic has only gotten worse. When I was teaching, Uber wasn't even here yet. I was living the life of a local and teaching English. The first few months, I loved it, man. Going on the bus, listening to Colombian music, it was packed. People seemed generally okay with it. Getting on the metro, you're nuts to butts with people. It was fun at the beginning. But a few months later, I was like, man, I need to figure my life out. And that's when I started my online business, and I decided that, commuting to work wasn't for me. But it was a fun experience at first. That being said, public transportation, especially the metro, is really good in Medellin. It's the best in the country, actually. But if you can avoid it during peak hours, I would highly suggest that. Driving is terrible in Colombia. And I have a few theories on why that is. For example, in the United States, you have to pass a driving test and a written test. Here in Colombia, all you got to do is be of age and pass a cognitive test. And it's valid for 10 years. And once it expires, you got to go through that same process, pay, and you get it for another 10 years. This is really easy. Anybody can do it. I have one here. I even have one for motorcycle, and I don't even know how to drive a motorcycle. So that's how easy it is. And that's why there's so many bad drivers, in my opinion. Another reason why I think driving is so terrible here is that traffic law enforcement is very, very, very lax. I've never seen someone getting pulled over by a traffic cop for not using their blinker, for not yielding at a yielding sign, for not stopping at a stop sign. I never see that. I only see traffic cops citing people that are illegally parked, waving traffic in and out of certain places. There are no real consequences for breaking driving laws here, so everyone breaks the law here. If you have enough money to buy a car and to buy your driver's license, then it's your right to drive. And pedestrians are second-class citizens. They'll run you over and your entire family and their own grandmother if they were standing in front of you. It could be the sweetest grandmother in the world. You give her keys and get her behind the wheel, she'll turn into Evel Knievel and will not let you cross. It could be a barren highway and you've got your blinker on and you're gonna go over. She'll speed up just so that you don't get over on her in her territory, on her road, in her car. Colombian diet isn't as healthy as one may think. Even though the obesity rate here in Colombia is at 29%, which compared to the US's 41% is very low, the Colombian diet consists of greasy foods, deep fried foods, heavy on carbs and sugar. And remember, the leading cause of death in Colombia is heart disease, which is tied to unhealthy diet and inactivity. So even though we may think that Colombians are healthier just because we don't see obesity so rampant as in the United States, the general diet is pretty unhealthy, but there is a plus side here. Vegetables and fruits are abundant in this country. You can find them at outdoor markets, your corner market, the supermarket at very low prices. So grocery shopping, cooking at home is very affordable. And if you're making dollars, you're probably going to be able to afford to go to these healthier spots that are going to be more costly to locals, but within your budget as a foreigner with foreign currency. Amazon works in Colombia. Kind of. What I mean is that there are sellers on Amazon that ship to Colombia, and it works great. You get stuff here within 7 to 10 business days to your doorstep, which is awesome. But the problem is that not all sellers ship to Colombia, so your inventory is kind of limited. So what happens in the situation where you find a vendor on Amazon that doesn't ship to Colombia, or maybe you're online shopping on other websites that just don't ship to Colombia? What can you do? Well, you can set up an account with a freight forwarder like the Caribbean Shipper. That's the one that I use. I'm not affiliated with them, but I've had a good experience. When you register with them, they give you a mailing address within the United States. Send all of the items to that address, and when I'm ready, I tell them to forward it to me here, and it gets to me within 4 to 5 business days. Another thing that people don't tell you about Colombia is that the people here, even though they are warm, they're very clicky, which means that when you go out, usually you go out with friends. If you're a local here, you've had lifelong friends, you hardly ever do things by yourself. So if you're a foreigner coming here and you are by yourself, it can be very lonely. You'll go to a dance club and there are groups of people at tables talking to themselves, not really interacting with anybody else. So if you're by yourself, it's kind of hard to break that. And it's not only for dance clubs, but it's for a lot of things. So even though people are very warm, very welcoming, very loving here, it can be difficult to meet people if you are not that type of outgoing person or someone that's going to have the courage to go up to a whole group and introduce yourself, etc. So what's the workaround here? It's to find groups online, whether it's on Facebook or on WhatsApp. There's a ton of groups on WhatsApp. Just look up the mdecommunity.com, where people that have your same interests get together and do things. But even that can be challenging, especially if you are new to the country, maybe you don't know the language, etc. This is why I've created the Medellin Inner Circle. It's for people just like you that want to come to Colombia, discover the city, meet like-minded people, and not have to do all of the organizing, right? We do events, for example, like going to Guatapé or going to a small town, a day trip. We go to conversation clubs. We go to networking events where we do all of the logistical work, all of the planning, and all you got to do is show up. So check out the Medellin Inner Circle. The link is in the description below. And if you have any questions, make sure to message me. One of the biggest things that a lot of people don't talk about here is the difference in the dating culture. In the United States, you can pick someone up at a bar and even have a one-night stand with them and never talk to them again. In Colombia, that's a rare occurrence. Even if you're a really good-looking person, people are skeptical here. People are hesitant because of our turbulent past. People don't jump the gun to invite a stranger over to their home, which means that you can kind of consider dating as more old school here, or more traditional in a sense, for the most part. Obviously, there are exceptions, but for example, in the United States, when you get someone's number, you usually don't text them right away. It might even take you a couple of days to hit them up. But here in Colombia, you could get someone's number and text them that very same day saying, hey, it was great meeting you. It was really funny when you said this, or it was really cool that you like this and that and the other. We should set up a date. That's okay here. Actually, some people enjoy that intensity. They call it being intense. So it's really good to know that there is a difference in the dating culture here, that it's not like the United States, but the best way to learn it is to actually be in it, to put yourself out there and not be afraid to be rejected. Because remember, I went over this already. It's very seldom that people will say no. So you just got to get out there, make friends, hit people up, and you may be surprised. But my favorite thing about the dating culture here is that it's very family oriented. So every girl that I've ever dated seriously or semi-seriously has always wanted me to meet their family pretty quickly within meeting them, right? I'm talking about like on the 3rd or 4th date, which is something very different to my dating life in the United States for my first, 28 years of my life out there. But the really, really good part about the dating culture here is when you hit that like and subscribe button to this channel, because I upload videos frequently and I go live on Saturdays or Sundays where you can ask me questions right there on your screen. So go hit it.